Good morning and welcome. Once again, we are coming to you live from our individual spaces as we gather as one collective community. We are Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and we are served by our interim minister, the Reverend Dr. Samantha Wilson. My name is Robin Balsell, and I'm a PA here at MVUU. We are a welcoming congregation, and I am honored to welcome you all, whoever you are and wherever you may be, to our service today. As is the case with all things, February 2022 is coming to an end. This month, we have been on a path together through an exploration of deep listening. And today, we bring a temporary closure to the focus on this theme with listening to death, or listening to what ends. As my own personal journey with death and endings has so much complexity and length to it, I felt initially that I should have something powerful to say. And while I struggled to find words to share with you that would be deep and profound and personal this morning, it occurred to me that now is not the time for me to be speaking my truth, but rather I too should be listening. So with that, I ask that everyone grab a candle or your own chalice to light with me this morning as I share these words by Reverend Scott Taylor titled, "Always a Voice Arises." What is it about this flame that opens our ears, opens our hearts? Come back to your center, it calls. Return to that quiet space we long for and that longs for us. From this stillness, always a voice arises if we let it. So come, friends, let us listen once again. Let us find that flame inside that guides us back home.
Birdsong by Julie Flett. Spring. It's a mucky spring morning as we pack up the last of our belongings and leave our little home in the city by the sea. I'm going to miss my friends and cousins and aunties and uncles. I'm going to miss my bedroom window and the tree outside. Goodbye, tree friend, I whisper. We drive through the country and over the mountains, alongside rivers and fields of horses. We stop to see a lone coyote crossing the road. Our new home sits on a hill overlooking a field, and past it another home. In that home lives an older woman named Agnes. The field is covered in snowdrops. Our new home has 2 trees outside and creaky stairs inside. My new room has a shelf for books and pictures and a desk for drawing. But I don't feel like drawing. My hands are cold. My mom and I bundle up under the covers in our new home in the country, far from the sea. Summer. Our new home hums with peeps and whistles and ribbits and chirps. I watch Agnes, our neighbor, working on something in her yard. "Why don't you visit her, Katerina?" my mom says. I nod. Okay. I take our dog, Oho, with me. Oho means owl in Cree. "Hello, Agnes," I say. "You must be Katerina," she says. "Woof," Oho barks. "Your mom has told me all about you," Agnes says. "She says you love to draw." I do. Agnes loves to make things out of clay. She shows us around her yard. There are berries and flowers and so many of her clay things. They look like the branches and the birds and the flowers. "Visit me again soon, Katerina," Agnes says with a smile. I smile back and give her a big wave. I can't wait to go home and start drawing. Fall. I do visit Agnes again. And again. And again. Agnes digs in her garden. I help by gathering extra leaves that'll get mixed into the soil. The worms love this. It's getting cold and windy and creaky. Agnes says she's getting creaky too. "Would you like to see what I'm working on, Katerina?" she asks. "I'd like that," I say. Agnes is working on a pot that's round and bright. She tells me about waxing and waning moons. I tell her about Cree seasons. This month is called Pimihau Pisum, the migrating moon. Here comes the moon and 2 shiny seagulls. And there go the geese. Winter. It's Oho's first snow. We toboggan until my snowsuit is soggy, and Oho is covered in tiny snowballs. After, we warm up with Mom by the fire, and then help her finish making salmon stew to share with Agnes. Agnes hasn't been out as much, and needs a little help over the winter. She likes the salmon stew. Her daughter, who has come to stay for a while, likes it too. Agnes sends me home with a cup full of bulbs, snowdrop bulbs to plant in the field next autumn. They look like tiny moons. They give me more ideas for pictures. My fingers itch in my mittens. Spring. Agnes has grown weaker over the winter. Still, from her bed, we can hear the spring birds singing their songs and the tickle of the branches against her window. We listen to the sounds together. The snowdrops are peeking out. I wish Agnes could see them. I have an idea. I I run home and gather up all my drawings. Agnes's daughter meets me at the door, and we take 2 ladders from the closet. When we're done, Agnes says it's like a poem for her heart. Then I sit with Agnes and talk about making things, mucky things, and things with string and song, and paper and words. And then we sit quietly together on Agnes's bed until it's time to say goodbye. I leave with an ache in my heart, but I'm so glad to know my friend Agnes. Hello, Mom. Hello, Oho. Hello, home with 2 trees and creaky stairs. Later that night, I Yiki Pisum, the frog moon, is full. My mom and I bundle up together in our home. My hands feel warm, and the covers feel soft, and I think of my friend until I fall asleep. The end.
Oh, that story I read with my daughter, Joy, and it always makes me cry at the end. And I don't know if Joy realizes why it makes me cry at the end, but I know why it does. And the tender sweetness of meeting people where they are, complicated and beautiful human beings, and the complicated sweetness of change and endings and death and dying, and the challenge of it, where each of us is at. And I want to take a moment in the service today to do deep gratitude for this community who has been in a practice of exploring and facing death with a loving gaze, a fierce gaze, a sad gaze, complicated gaze. Since the death of Martha Castriata, there has been a desire to speak more honestly about what it means to die well, to die on your own terms, to die with dignity. And the answers to all those questions look as different as there are different people in this room. But what has been sweet has been the way this people here has come together in their difference to explore something that we all will go through. So I wanted to pause today and lift up those people among you who were part of making that happen. I want to give gratitude to Joe and Almut Scott for hosting a film series with Bill Killian. They hosted 3 films that explored the end-of-life process of folks across the United States. I want to give gratitude to Nancy and Warren Reinecke and Toby Denny, who helped hold a small group ministry of about a dozen people who met 4 times over the last 2 or 3 months, thinking about their own dying process, the spirituality of letting go, of forgiveness, of legacy. I want to give gratitude to Jamili Omar, the director of Lifespan Faith Development at the church in Tucson, and for her support of our journey and the inspiration from the journey that now has taken root in the Baja 4 with upcoming small group ministries and film series that you can join if you didn't join this one. And I want to give a deep, deep, heartfelt gratitude to Larry Castriata and Larry and Martha's journey and Martha's choice to die and Larry's decision to make it public with her and to invite us into their story and the complexity of that story. So with this, I know so many of you participated in either the film series, or perhaps you were at Martha's memorial, or perhaps you were in the small group, or perhaps you've just heard conversations from friends. But in our next piece of music, Let It Be a Dance, this is for you, Ann Tatum. We invite you to think about a moment or a story that you experienced during that time that you might want to share in the chat box. It might be a phrase or it might be a sentence, but we welcome any of your reflections from that experience of death with dignity and your desires going forward. So with that, let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance we do, this dance with you, through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark, there's no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, share the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
The question, how are we relating to changes and endings? But even before we ask that question, maybe we need to ask, how are we noticing them in the first place? When you hear the words like endings and changes, what do you think as examples? Endings and changes, that's something that happen infrequently or periodically in the midst of seeming stability and continuity, like seasons, job change, retirement, birth or death of a loved one, kids growing up and leaving home, beginning or ending of a love relationship. The more we slow down and observe closely, we discover endings and changes are actually everywhere and in every moment. In this very moment, my exhale has ended and a new inhale has begun. And in the 1 minute I have spoken so far, we, each one of us, shed approximately 35,000 dead skin cells in 1 minute. And just as many new ones are being created. The sun has shifted higher up in the sky since we began the service. But actually, it's the rotating Earth at the speed of 1,000 miles per hour at the equator that gives the illusion of the moving sun. Changes are happening all the time, inside us, around us. And the only constant is that everything is in motion, that everything has a beginning and ending. You know, even our solar system has an expiration date. So let's take a moment to reflect on this. How is our heart responding to this knowing of impermanence. There are beginnings and endings in the tasks that we do, even small, ordinary ones, like washing dishes, taking a walk, making love, changing baby's diaper, attending meeting, and so on. Right now, we are in the middle of the service, and it will end. Have you noticed that it's easy to be aware of a beginning, or a beginning of things, a beginning of a task? And we rarely remain mindful of the ending of a task, of things. Most of the time we approach the ending, we are already thinking of the next thing, next place to go, next thing to get. When we buy a bouquet of flowers, after a few days, we toss the withered ones in trash without a second thought, don't we? What would it be like if we thank them for the fragrance and the colors they brought us and place them gently in the trash instead of tossing them mindlessly? And what would it be like to really become aware of not just the beginning, but ending of, say, washing the dishes, letting in fully a small sense of satisfaction from completing the task, actually thanking the dishes, the soap, and the water for serving us so well every day? I just realized that maybe you don't wash dishes anymore, that you may just put the dirty dishes in the dishwasher, push the button, and forget about it. But I wonder if we miss out a small but a significant heart opening when we no longer have the experience of washing dishes by hand with care and with gratitude. But maybe it's easier to talk about ending of tasks and things. What about ending of our life? Death of loved one, of our own mortality. How do we relate to that? I don't mean just intellectually, but with our soma and psyche, with our heart and body, especially the latter. Just a few weeks ago, my cherished companion of 12 years died. She was old and sickly. I knew her death was coming. But no matter how well the intellectual mind understood its inevitability, being intimate with her physical decline and eventual death profoundly impacted me. I think we all have similar experience. She was a bridge to my beloved husband who died 11 years ago. 2 months after my husband was diagnosed with a terminal cancer, we adopted a sweet yellow lab from the Humane Society. We named her Luna. And Luna was present throughout my husband's physical decline. And then death came. Luna was there as I felt drowned in my unbearable grief. Luna, in her own dog's way, was bearing witness to the changes in the family, to the withering of my husband's body and its ending. And she was there after he was gone. Through my mourning and my gradual reawakening to a meaningful life. And 12 years later, Luna was now old and sick. She couldn't tell me in human words how that was. So I learned to lean in, to listen to her changing conditions. It was up to me to practice earnest and patient listening. I want to share a poem by Ursula Le Guin called The Marrow. There was a world inside a stone. I tried to pry it clear, mallet and chisel, pick and gad, until the stone was dropping the blood. But still, I could not hear the word the stone had said. I threw it down beside the road among 1,000 stones. And as I turned away, it cried the word aloud within my ear. And the marrow of my bones heard and replied. The marrow of my bones heard and replied. Just as Luna used to follow me around with her bright brown eyes, wet black nose, her smell, her superpower. Now I followed her lead. And my superpower was my heart of care. Despite my mind's protest, I communicated to Luna, you can go when you're ready. You just let me know. And in the middle of the night, she silently came to my bedside. And it was the jingling of her metal tags that woke me. So I turned on the light and saw her brown eyes pleading to my eyes. Our eyes met like the first time I saw her at the shelter. It was a lightning that lit up the dark clouds and let us see the truth. Though fleeting, the memory was sharply implanted. Yes, soon it's time. And she needed my help. Death as life is not an intellectual event. It's primal. The body is our ground, and its ending is an earth-shaking transition. But my mind wanted to minimize what my body knew. I intellectualize it sometimes to keep my grief at bay. While from Luna's body to mine, we knew the truth of her changes and ending. Really, it was my mind that couldn't accept that she exhaled for the last time. And the mind asked, the mind got busy asking, what else could I have done? If I took care of her better, could I have prolonged her life? But the animal body said, with a great equanimity, death is like this. not more, not less. When my husband was dying and feeling fearful, he remembered Kuro, our last cat. Animals know how to die, don't they? He reflected to me. That realization was a turning point that enabled him to trust his body's process as natural and inevitable, neither good or bad. The more we try to control the outcomes, the more we suffer. With surrender comes peace and the deep knowing of the preciousness of each moment of being alive. Still, the heart breaks with grief. No matter how prepared we are of death, of endings, no matter how well we understand that this pain is the other side of love, of caring, the loss still hurts. It is the rope burns left behind when that which is held is pulled beyond our grasp. Stephen Levine, a meditation teacher and the author of Unattended Sorrow, wrote, "We are learning to live with the consequences of love. So we must bear loss as deeply as we cared. In order to balance our fear with our courage, we must trust our pain enough to explore it. The more we are able to receive our pain with kindness, the more likely we are to offer these conditions to another. When our personal sorrow connects with the 10,000 others suffering at this same moment, it ripples across the shared reservoir of grief, turning it into an ocean of compassion." As I accept Luna's death, my heart overflowed with gratitude for her life and all the incredible gifts from loving her and being loved by her. Not just Luna, but her death freshly reminded me of all those loved ones who are no longer in the physical form and still with me, cheering me, guiding me. So I called on them with gratitude and awe. It is the impermanence that make us see how precious life is. It is the endings and fleetingness of life that constantly urges us to discern, to discern our priorities in life. Death is a friend who teaches us to remember what really matters to us and how amazing it is to be alive in this moment. So, what do we do with this one precious life, as Mary Oliver asks? What do we do with this precious life? And we each must answer that, of course, every day, every day. And I do want to acknowledge that we're in such a time of enormous changes and uncertainties. While COVID case counts are down. Still, 2,000 people are dying a day, every day. And the climate changes have brought on unprecedented extreme weathers, destroying homes, habitats, lives. Injustices, especially against the people of color and the immigrants, unfortunately, have not waned. As the problem is solved, a new, often unanticipated difficulties and challenges emerge. And of course, earlier in the week, Russian military invaded Ukraine. Unthinkable geopolitical changes are happening. And we do get tired of this tension, these uncertainties that sometimes come with changes. And sometimes we wonder if we have the bandwidth to remain resilient and hopeful. When I was in the midst of my grief, I actually could not have imagined a bright world. But like a flash of lightning that illuminates the dark, we each have in us a deeply ingrained memory of our capacity for love and an indestructible longing to thrive and to thrive together. It's in our DNA. If we feel tired, we need to take a pause. So in the spaciousness of rest, we connect with what our marrow in the body never forgets. If we grieve, we need to trust the pain that it will open to interconnection and compassion. Together, we will connect with the life force that is love, that gives us courage to take on the new day, and in solidarity with all beings. So those were a lot of words, a lot of thoughts, and maybe different feelings were evoked in you. Let's take a little pause. And together, let's take a few deep breaths. Inhaling this life fully and exhaling and releasing just as completely. Just a couple more deep breaths. Strong back, supporting soft belly in the front. And feel your whole body breathing. Whole body sitting here. Receive the body of sensations in a clear, gentle awareness. Nothing to add, nothing to take away. Just this much. And now let the breath breathe itself in its own natural rhythm. Can you feel the breath as energy, the beating of the heart as the vibration of life? Let's really connect with aliveness in the body in this moment. And let us affirm its preciousness, because this will end. What would it be like to make friends with death and allow the awareness of impermanence to be a wise companion that can guide us to remember what really matters to us? What is your heart's deepest longing? Connecting with what matters the most in your life. Does what we long for the most also asks us to let go the most? And what clarity might be arising in you right now? And could that clarity become a resting place that you return to over and over? Thank you.
Judaism, Jewish tradition, provides a framework for grief that is often missing or has fallen out of so many other world faith traditions. At the end of the prayers for every day and the prayers to be recited every day, there is a piece known as the Kaddish. It's often recited while standing at a graveside, but it's a part of everyday service. And the prayer itself is nothing much to do with death itself. I got in trouble once for calling it spiritual boilerplate, because it's all the usual, God is so great and we are so blessed to be, and God is so blessed, and all of that. But it concludes with a phrase that I found very, very attractive to me. Ose shalom bimromav, huya ase shalom aleinu, val kol Yisrael, val kol ha'olam, vimru, amen. I found it so attractive I actually set it to music. It's one of the first pieces in Hebrew I set almost 12 years ago now. It translates to, may the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and for the entire world. And let us all say, amen. In my head, though, sometimes it turns back on itself. And I want to say, dear God, if you can make peace in the heavens, why can't you make peace here on earth? Not just for the people who you call your chosen, but for the entire world. Then everybody would say, amen. And don't you know that stupid little stubborn voice inside my head goes, why are you asking God to make peace? You don't even know if that God exists. That's your job. Ose shalom bimromav, huyase shalom aleinu, val kol Yisrael, val kol haolam, vimru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, huyase shalom aleinu, val kol Yisrael, val kol haolam, vimru amen.
Lamentation. I'm feeling lamentation today, and I'm sitting with the things we're holding together. We are holding death and impermanence, geopolitical upheaval, violence, and power in our own nation, transphobic laws that prevent people who do not want to be pregnant to continue being pregnant. Today, after this service, we're talking about money. And it seems at the end of all of that, that it feels like it's too much and so much to hold all in one. And yet I don't know what else church is for. I don't know why else we gather. For what more real a reason we could gather, but to tend each other's lives and deaths, and to help move each other into more just and kind and merciful living. And then to sit in giant I don't knows, and to wail and to scream and to weep together. There is no other work for us to do besides this. And UUs could do better at it. No sources in our UU hymnal identify as laments, but 40% of the Hebrew Bible does. And perhaps it's because rituals of lament and making space for grief have no other purpose but deep feeling and deep listening. And it resists a logic that we are used to. But if we give space for feeling, a deeper wisdom emerges. As we close today into a break and then into a fellowship hour about the future of this congregation, we have two pieces of music to lament with you. One of them comes from the punk rock tradition of Pussy Riot, a Russian feminist punk rock group that has been unafraid of Putin for quite some time. And another piece, Sibelius, Finlandia, a story of a people regathering themselves. One might evoke your anger and rage, and the other might evoke your sadness and your hope. Our invitation is to be with all of it. Hannah Coy, a member of our community, offers us these words for the song from Pussy Riot. She and her partner right now are navigating the invasion of Ukraine, as her partner is from Ukraine, and they seek to connect with family who are there now. Hannah writes these words. This song was written in 2012 after several members of the Russian feminist punk rock band Pussy Riot were arrested for hooliganism motivated by religious hatred, or in clear and boring words, for performing a punk rock concert in a church. It's understood that the larger reason is that they were mocking Putin in a way that gained attention, both in Russia and internationally. In America, we like to think we're pretty free, and we are. You can play a punk rock in a church without being oppressed by the state, but we're also unfree. Because in the dominant culture, that act would be uncomfortable. It's not nice church music. It's angry and powerful and defiant. We oppress ourselves to avoid accessing emotions we had never learned to use constructively. But I need anger to be part of my spiritual experience. I need my spiritual people to be able to see anger as sacred and uplifting. I need to know that if I'm a member of a church, it's one where niceness does not cut off access to visceral forms of strength. That's why I'm sharing this. I don't necessarily hope you enjoy it. If you do, though, awesome. But I hope you can hear it and believe.
Щеки, как груди, живот! Нас нельзя закупорить ящик, стригачек, нам лучше чаще! Путин зажигает костры революции! Ему скучно и страшно с людьми в тишине! Влекать на него, то гнилая рябина! Что не срок много лет, то предмет для полюции!
That rather proves my point. And one of the greatest things that I believe is that all music is sacred. And all music belongs in church at the right moment. Jean Sibelius was a classical composer, born in 1865 in Finland. When he was 35, he struggled with, like a lot of people at the time, 1900, the idea of nationalism and who are we if we are not members of our own country. And he wrote the great Finnish tone poem for orchestra called Finlandia, from which this next tune is drawn. He lived long enough, he lived actually into the 1950s, to see what this virulent nationalism could do to the world as it tore across Europe in the coming years. But he was heartened to see that this tune that's known in our hymnal as Finlandia got pulled out and was used as a rallying cry for the Finnish fight against Russia and later the Soviet Union.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Oh, friends, my heart has a lot to process from our service today, as I'm sure all of yours do as well. As we close out on our time in service together today, I invite you to grab your chalice or your candle that you lit earlier and join me in extinguishing our flames with a short piece by Kenneth W. Coyer called What I Know. I do not know where we go when we die, and I do not know what the soul is, or what death is, or when, or why. What I know is that the song once sung cannot be unsung, and the life once lived cannot be unlived, and the love once loved cannot be unloved.
For the prelude this morning, some of you recognize that was the national anthem of Ukraine. And I'm going to play it again as postlude, and I wanted to read the lyrics before I did. You are not dead, Ukraine. See thy glories born again, and the skies, O friends, upon us will smile once more. As springtime melts the snow, so shall melt away our foe, and we shall be masters in our own home. Soul and body, our all we offer at freedom's call, we whose forebears and ourselves, proud Ukrainians, all.